All right, welcome to Two Sons Podcast. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's been a couple weeks. It's been like 15 days,
Slackers.
but I know it just was a confluence of events. I went to Lake Tahoe, and then as soon as I came back, we were both busy. You picked up like a random shift last Saturday. It was just a lot, and then Easter Sunday. It's like everything's going on, so it just was really busy. But we're going to be hitting episode 7 of Shogun today. We're also going to record a little breakdown of episode 6 too on the tail end. I'll also re-release that as a breakout clip for people that are looking for that specifically. And then we're going to also be recording a Bad Batch reaction today. It'll probably go out a couple days from now.
Talk about behind
as well. Yeah, we are way behind.
Four or 5 episodes behind.
I know, but we need to catch up because the shit's hitting the fan.
Dude,
we got like 3 episodes left of Shogun, and then we're right into Fallout, and then we're right in. I just saw another trailer for House of the Dragon today that looked really freaking cool. I'm ready, man.
And you just told me that you're interested in Bad Batch, which is blowing my mind.
I know. A Bad Batch. We got an Asajj Ventress appearance.
Dude,
that got me interested in Bad Batch.
She is so cool.
She is so cool. Speaking of cool, episode 7, we get this kind of like, I love this like kind of like like right in the forest, this meeting that we get between Toranaga and his brother. We actually open up with a flashback to child Toranaga. And him beating his first enemy in his first battle.
The Child Warlord.
The Child Warlord.
That is quite the title. That I wouldn't want my kid to have.
Yeah. It was actually...
that sucks.
Graham the Warlord. I honestly, like they did a really interesting kind of cinematic effect where like right as Toranaga was swinging his sword, they like cut away from it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of feels like this final thing. And then we find out later on from Toranaga and is it his uncle?
I don't know.
But I did find out that's Buntaro's father.
Correct.
Yeah. Like family tree stuff, I'm still piecing it all together.
There's a lot to break down.
There's a lot to break down, but they have this funny thing where he's like, it took you 9 shots actually to take off. It's like,
and he was talking about how he just made a mess of things.
You made a mess. But we get this meeting between Toranaga and his brother and their armies in the forest. And I immediately look over at Carly. We're watching it last night.
Sketch.
I immediately look over at Carly and I'm like, I have a feeling they're going to end up fighting each other. I was expecting it to go south at some point and there to be like an actual conflict between those two, which ended up being the truth, but not the way that I was expecting.
Right. Well, it was one of those classic movie approaches where things are just way too good. Oh, I haven't seen you in years. And then they just start, giving each other a really hard time and they're laughing and everything's perfect. And then pretty quickly after that at dinner, the shoe drops.
Yeah, the dead giveaway was when he was like, "My men look forward to sharing." What did he say? He was like fighting alongside you,
spilling blood with you, or
spilling blood with you, or something like that. And it's like okay, he's already agreeing, but at the same time, he said, "I'm excited to hear what you have to offer."
Right.
And so it was kind of like confusing.
Too much.
So we fast forward, and Toranaga's taking care of him, buys him 2 weeks.
Or I think at least 1 week.
It was like one full week.
The consort.
The consort of Japan.
In the region.
The region, yeah.
Apparently she's pretty good.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Her boyfriend is getting pretty pissed, too.
Yeah, he's not a huge fan. This one dude, what is it, Toranaga's? No, it's Yabushigi's nephew, right?
Yeah.
Yabushigi's nephew made the poor decision of getting into an emotional relationship with a consort, which is going about just as well as you could imagine. When he shows up and asks to speak with her, and then she's like, "Oh, honey, we're gonna get you a fitting consort."
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the lady who leads the consort place, I actually think is kind of cool.
Oh, she's a badass. She's a businesswoman.
Oh yeah. She's super cool. So I want to get back to her though, because we have to explain why she goes to speak to Toranaga. So we're pouring some sake, enjoying some meal, fresh lobsters being prepared. Everything's going down, and Toranaga's brother just right from the top rope just goes like, "Actually,
right."
Like, I've already been given an offer."
And then he tells the story about Toranaga, like, shitting his pants.
Yeah, that was where it started to turn.
Everyone's, like, a little quiet.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to bring this around? Is there going to be a reason for this?
Yeah, no, and it went super dark, and I was wondering which direction that was going to go, and then it turned right away.
Yeah.
And so, as it turns out, at the end of episode 6, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, one of the regents is like this old samurai family, right? And he's pissed off because he doesn't like Ishido or the Catholic dudes. And so he's like, "I'm not going to vote for your dude to replace Toranaga." And so then he tries to flee the city and gets cut down dead.
Right.
And so there's 2 new regents that they need to fill, presumably the guy that they were voting on. And then the second regent, as it turns out, Toranaga's brother, a genius move from Ishido to kind of flip the table on him in terms of the scale of power.
Dude, and it's so they did such a good job filming that, because when you first meet Toranaga's brother, you're like, pretty likable dude. And then literally the second that you know he's a turncoat, all of a sudden you just have this terrible feeling about him, and they like film him differently. And the actor did such a good job portraying both of those roles.
I totally agree. And which, by the way, is part of the kind of like the suspense of the way he delivered the message. He could just as easily have rolled up on Toranaga and been like, here's the report. But I think there was a specific strategy behind that, because I think Toranaga's brother actually ended up closing off all the exits to the town, the little fishing village that they're in.
Right. Yeah.
And so and then Ishido actually brings in a ship. And because it was Ishido's banner, so Ishido was in on it, and they blocked. So this is clearly all part of the plan. Like, you go up, you're like, hey bro, what's up? We're about to fight together. This is great. Let's go have a party, have some sake.
Yeah.
And then mid sake, you block off basically put the entire village under siege.
Dude, that makes total sense too, because Toranaga wanted to discuss matters the following day, and his brother's like, no, let's talk about it now.
No, dude,
we're not gonna sleep this over. Let's chat.
Which was smart. I thought it was if there was a time for you to try to pull something like that, it would be at night when everyone's chilling, when the sake's already been flowing.
Exactly.
So basically Toranaga, there's this really cool moment where like he hands off two pieces of paper. The one is to Toranaga. It's basically like, hey, you need to report to Kyoto, right? No, not Kyoto, to Osaka.
Yeah.
So you can basically face the music, so to speak, right? And then there's this other one that he tries to hand directly to his son. That's like, hey, this is for you to commit seppuku for killing the warlord guy that went to go send the message last time. And Toranaga jumps up and he's like, do not touch that piece of paper.
That's the one thing he cared about, right?
Yeah.
That's the one thing that really made him jump. Which is why I think this is kind of jumping towards the end, and I'm just going to do it because it makes sense.
I don't think anybody watched half the episode and then decided to check out. Yeah.
Spoiler alert. No, Toranaga's son dying, I think, is what's going to push him over the edge in order to re-engage his plan.
I 100% agree with you. Carly and I both said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So at the end, we're going to get to it, but Toranaga's son ends up dying in like basically an assassination attempt of Toranaga's brother.
Right.
And, that's a really good call out from you there. Like, Toranaga was very measured and calm when he was getting the message from his brother, basically that he was getting stabbed in the back. But as soon as his son was threatened, he jumped up and was like, do not touch that piece of paper. Super cool. And like, it's even interesting from the standpoint of like, because there's clearly a formality to the papers. Like Toranaga's like, I will give you a response by tomorrow at sunset. I need to think about this thoroughly, and then he's like, do not touch that freaking piece of paper,
It's like you've been served, like via court order.
Yeah.
You've been served.
That's kind of
like, no, don't touch it.
Exactly.
You haven't been served yet.
Very, very, very similar kind of situation. Yeah. So we fast forward through the rest of the episode, basically up until the end is everything that happens over the following day. And there's a couple of different storylines that are going down. The biggest one, though, is essentially Yabushigi's nephew goes up to Yabushigi's nephew, when he goes up to the house of the what did she call it?
It's the world of the willow, or something.
Yeah,
there's tea house.
The tea house. Yeah. So tea house is like it's like
a classy.
It's a classy brothel. Like that, because when she did her rant to Toranaga, she's like, I want to do like a block of like just tea houses, not brothels, but tea houses. Like
they're different.
They're very different. So he goes up to try to see his prostitute girlfriend, and he gets turned away at the door, basically. But in the process, the lady who runs the tea house says, like, by the way, the Anjin, when he was here, he wasn't really interested in your girl.
Yeah.
He was interested in someone else. He runs straight to Buntaro and tells him the same thing on the night of the sake.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, Buntaro has some thoughts. And so we get this really cool scene where, like, the Anjin goes down to the Blackthorn goes down to the beach, and he runs into Yabushigi there.
How often do you think Blackthorn goes down to the beach and just stares at his ship?
Oh, I know. But
it seems like he does it all the time. He just stares off. Ah, damn.
And like,
I had that.
That funny scene when there's a moment where he goes to visit Toranaga while he's like contemplating, and Mariko's there with them like doing the translation, and he's like, here's the deal. Like, I can get on my ship, I can fix the sail, I can go down to the rudder, and I could like scrape all the shit off of it. Like he's clearly a very maritime focused man. Like he just wants to get back on his boat.
That's all he wants. That's all he wants. But anyways, they're on the beach.
We're on the beach, and Yabushigi's there. There's this funny scene where once again Yabushigi's like talking shit to him, and he's like, I bet you wish you were in that pot that I was boiling that guy in. Next thing you know, he like takes out his sword and like has like a little play sword battle with him. And Buntaro just comes running up on him. And like as he's on the ground, like runs up on him and like puts the sword to his neck, and you have no idea what's going on.
Buntaro's an absolute madman.
Oh yeah, but John Blackthorne's like, do it.
I know. He's like, please, this has been awful. He's like, I hate Japan.
I even looked at that as like he's tempting Buntaro. There's John Blackthorne's not backing down from Buntaro.
Right.
Much.
He just has no choice. He's just like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, he's kind of like, but from like the standpoint of battles of wills, like throughout this show, he's been very much like, you're a piece of shit. You're mean to Mariko, so fuck you. Like I'm gonna give you attitude, right? So Buntaro pulls away at the last second, but he ends up running up to Toranaga and basically goes to Toranaga and says like, hey, like Blackthorne's looking at my wife. Like, what are we gonna do about this? And then Toranaga basically looks back at him like. And then he goes like, actually, I'm just complaining about nothing. Please forgive me. And then he turns around and leaves. So then he asks Mariko about it. And Mariko goes, all I've done is serve you. All I want to do is die. Please kill me. And like shows him her knife.
I know.
And Toranaga's like just slaps the knife out of his hand and walks away. So like that's pretty much the end of like the Toranaga, Buntaro, Mariko, and like Blackthorn saga in this particular episode.
Well, and Buntaro asked Toranaga formally if he could kill the Unjin when the time was right.
Yeah.
Right. Did you get that?
No, he said it right away from what I heard.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
I thought it was like in battle. Oh, I see.
He's like, can you, I think the way Buntaro viewed it is like, hey, like if you're going to surrender and like run off, can I also kill the barbarian? Like that's kind of the way I was looking at it, because he was like, the way he kind of portrayed it too is he was like he's in this for himself. He's not in it for you.
Yeah.
Which is like everyone's in it for themselves in this era. Like I don't really know what that means. And then I don't like the way he looks at my wife, you know? And for the record, like since Buntaro came back, Mariko's been super chill. All the inappropriate behavior took place during the time when Buntaro was perceived to be dead.
Which rightfully so. I mean, the dude was fighting off like 20 people at once. Yeah. So can you really blame Mariko?
Yeah. Like,
by the way, that's like apparently the only time that she's been happy for the last like 20 years.
Yeah, was when Buntaro was dead. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we get to the end. And Toranaga, we have one more scene before we get to the end. So before we get to when Toranaga surrenders. So we have this scene where this really interesting moment where it turns out the price for the consort for a week is like, it's like 1,200 whatevers, but it's also a stick of time from Toranaga, which there was a couple mentions of that early in the episode, and I was kind of confused.
Right,
and
what it was, what that means.
This dope ritual where like they stick a little, it looks like
very
incense.
Literal.
Yeah.
Incredibly liberal.
Yeah.
Or liberal.
They take like a basically a stick of incense and they put it in like a little pot of stones.
Yeah.
And they light the tip of it, and it's like, you get my time for as long as this stick.
I was literally about to Google what that was, and then the scene came where the stick of time was burning. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's this really interesting example where, like, first of all, she pitches this idea of like basically this like tea house utopia in Edo that she wants. And Toranaga is basically like, girl, I'm about to die.
Yeah,
like,
you realize I'm about to die? Like,
I don't know what you're thinking here, but this isn't going to happen. And what's funny is she basically like comes clean at the last second and goes like, I actually think I know you. You're a trickster. Yeah. And we know Toranaga's a trickster from early in the show.
Right.
And she's like, there's no way she basically says to him like, there's no way you would have walked into this trap.
Yeah.
Like you clearly did this on purpose. You clearly have something in mind. At which point Toranaga goes like, my army just got destroyed by a mudslide.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any secret plans here. This isn't gonna work.
Right.
And so like that, and then she profusely apologizes and then runs out. We fast forward to the end, and it's time. The brother comes up, sits in front of him, and Toranaga basically just surrenders.
Right. Really quick, when he was having that stick of time scene, I thought that the lady was gonna offer services to kill Toranaga's brother.
I thought the exact same thing. Yeah. I thought she was going to be like, hey, my consort's going in there. I can have her kill him. Yeah. I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, I thought she was going to say something along the lines of like, did you also know that consort that everyone loves is also a trained assassin? Or something badass.
Which I wouldn't be surprised about.
And then the consort is with the brother, right? And they're, getting it on. And she's like, do you want to see how we can increase pleasure? And I thought she was going to go get some stuff to kill him.
I was thinking the exact same thing, and I was like, what is going on there in that scene? And honestly, the females in the show do a lot of fighting.
Yeah,
do.
they're badass.
Lady Fuji's training in this particular episode.
Right.
As a result, it was kind of cool too because early on, Buntaro's father comes and brings her former husband and son's ashes, and she goes like, "Oh, I cannot wait until I'm done serving the Anjin, and then I get to kill myself."
Everyone just wants to kill themselves.
I get to kill myself, and I get to be with my husband and my son. And then he's like, "No, why don't you fight for what we're fighting for here?"
Right.
And so next thing you know, she's out there training with the stick, which was cool. And then we've seen Mariko fight. So I was thinking the exact same thing for the record. But after Toranaga surrenders, there's this brief moment where Yabushiki speaks up and he's like, yo, what are we doing here? But Toranaga tells everyone to be quiet. And then the Anjin, he just gets up and goes like, he basically looks at him and goes like, this is lame. You guys are all going to die. I cannot believe believe this is the way this is going down. And then he runs off.
And then he just walks off. I was shocked that everyone allowed that to happen. But they're like, barbarians. And then they just continue on with their conversation.
I don't think he's necessarily bound by the same, in terms of, and also in that specific situation, what are they going to do? Just like cut him down in the middle of this environment?
They have Blackthorn walk differently during scenes where they want him to look illiterate with Japanese culture. Have you noticed that?
Really?
Yeah. So
like less formal?
Yes. So for example, like the beach scene, when he's walking kind of with like a big sway, and he kind of looks big and stupid. And then in other scenes, he doesn't walk like that. It's really interesting.
That is super interesting.
Yeah.
So our final scene.
Yes.
We have Toranaga's brother visiting with the consort. Consort's like, hey, this choking shit's not getting the job done, is it?
This is lame, huh?
We got to go to the.
It's pretty weak.
We got to step it up, right? So he's like, yeah, show me what you got.
Let me go get my club.
Yeah, and so she disappears for a minute, and she kind of runs off. Which, at first I was like, oh, like is this like some sort of quiet run, move quickly thing? Like is this like like one of the like the perks of the business here? Is like where they have to fetch stuff, they go fast. Like I don't know.
That's the how the tea house walk, the tea house run.
Yeah, exactly. The tea house jaunt. So in comes Toranaga's son with presumably a few assassins, and they're there to do the damage. And immediately, Toranaga's son just looks sloppy and uncoordinated, and looks like he's not particularly good at this as he's going after this unarmed man, and he ends up slipping on a wet rock and slamming his head into another rock, and presumably dies right there.
Yeah, I guess he just has like a casual brain bleed.
Yeah, oh yeah. That they made it pretty clear there that he did not survive that fall.
No.
So we're both on the same page. We think this is essentially going to be what changes Toranaga's no into a yes, or yes
Catalyst.
into a no, I should say, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky though, because obviously they're completely outnumbered, and I'm really curious to see how that goes. But I wonder if this is where, because we got a little hint in episode 6 where Father Martin talks about how the Catholics probably should have sided with Toranaga instead of Ishido, so maybe that's where this thing ends up
maybe
turning.
they get some backup there. Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested to see where the kind of power dynamic flips the other way. But it's funny. I was on Twitter, just like you. I missed the start of this. When did you watch this episode? Did you watch it on Monday night?
No, I watched it this morning. Actually.
Okay, yeah, and I didn't watch it until last night just because we were busy on Monday night. Our wives were watching the Taylor Swift Eras tour,
yeah. Which actually was way more interesting than I was expecting.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna admit, like I thought they were gonna put it on, and then all the guys were gonna do their thing, and we were all pretty much glued to the television.
It's interesting. And Taylor Swift has some bangers.
Yeah,
she does. Not my favorite, not my cup of tea, but
I think
she's got some bangers.
She's just all around kind of the GOAT. And what I mean by that is but no, hear me out. You'll understand where I'm coming from. Number one, this is like the biggest tour that's ever happened, right? She's probably made the most money that any artist has ever made, right?
Possibly. I'd have to look into it. Beyonce's good at this shit too.
Oh, Beyonce, in my opinion, is way better. But I'm talking like generally speaking, like Taylor Swift has captured everybody's attention, whereas Beyonce doesn't. And that's why I think she's considered like the GOAT. And so
I don't dig into this. I'm skeptical, but we'll allow it for right now.
And what I'll tell you is by no means is she even close to being like the best singer.
No, she's not.
Not even close. But again, like average scores across the board, like interest, being a likable person outside of your stage presence, having a good stage presence. people who she dates. I don't know. All the things that you can score someone, she scores pretty high on all of them. And then therefore, I think that's why she's the Taylor Swift.
She is a phenomenon. I mean? She is a phenomenon.
She is. I think it's going to be a good 25, 30 years before we see another Taylor Swift.
I think so too. Person. I think also like little things like her doing something like putting one of her shows on. Was it on Netflix? I think. Like
yeah.
Or whatever streaming server it was. Like, I think that's a really kind of cool way to not only make additional money, but to make her content more easily digestible for people that can't afford to go to her shows.
Yeah.
And things along those lines.
Yeah.
It gave me kind of a little bit of a peek at what the Taylor Swift crowds are like, and like, holy shit, man, dude.
That is a religion.
Yeah, and like I think the screaming would get to me a little bit.
Oh man, that made me so glad I didn't spend $2,000 to go to the concert. Like, no offense, like it was a great show, but like not my thing.
Taylor Swift takes here at the end of Two Sons podcast. Anything else from episode 7?
No, dude, I'm enjoying the show so much.
Me too.
The way that it's filmed is incredible. It's awesome to be in a different culture than our own. It's, having a time frame different than our own as well is super interesting.
Aren't you so glad we didn't research it before we watched it?
Super.
Because if we would have done the research, we would have just known the gist of what had happened either in the previous version of the show or how much of it is based on history. Because I'm glad, like Luke and I have made the decision before we went into the show to go in blind and just react to it as fans. Like, again, like people come to us for Star Wars for analysis,
right?
But like everything else, it's just we're just buds hanging out.
We're just idiots, just hanging out.
Yeah. So like that's the thing. We wanted to lean into that, and I'm glad we did because like I have no idea what's going to happen next. I have no idea how this is going to turn back.
It's been a lot of fun.
This is probably the darkest and lowest point for Toranaga at this point. His son just died. His army just got slashed in half, presumably, and his brother just betrayed him. And he's in big trouble.
Dude, that's actually my take. I was telling you that I had a Toranaga take.
Yeah, let's hear it.
This entire show is Toranaga dealing with people just not handling their shit.
Yeah. Dude. People not handling their shit, man.
Time after time after time. Mariko just constantly just wants to kill herself. The Yunjin constantly just wants to leave and have his shit back.
Yeah.
Toranaga's brother essentially stabs him in the back. Toranaga's son essentially goes off and starts a war without him knowing.
And then tries to assassinate his brother without him knowing.
Yeah, how do you say his
Yabushige.
name? Yabushige
Essentially
wants to betray him, but is not, so unlucky that he can't.
Yeah, he's not competent enough to betray Toranaga, but he really wants to.
Dude, I know. It's like this entire show is just everyone just being inept around Toranaga.
Buntaro's just angry and full of angst.
Yeah, Buntaro just wants to kill the Yunjin the entire time. It's like, the amount of crap that Toranaga is having to deal with on a daily basis is just absurd. More than anyone. Yeah, I know.
Gonna kill him now?
I know. Dude, it's more than one person could handle. I feel terrible for him.
I 100% agree. All right, guys, that's all we have for this particular episode. Like I said, we're about to record a breakdown of episode 6, so that'll be up on our feeds as well. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you then.
Thanks a lot.